What's up, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Underestimated Podcast. It's your host, Jeremy. I'm back with another episode. I'm trying to get this done quick so I can try to get it out before midnight. So it would technically count as releasing on a Sunday. This is Sand Shark Sundays episode 3, where I'm going to be covering the women's side, where they defeated Georgia College on February the 4th with a score of 70-61. I mean, what a great game. Another great game that USCB women's team has produced. I mean, this team just keeps on, adding building blocks to their resume and to their season. And it's like every game I'm seeing them become more seasoned, they're just showing more togetherness as a team, more continuity, endurance, resiliency. Like they've gone through a lot this season, and unless you've been around them, you wouldn't see it with the way that they play. Like, I mean, the way that they play is somewhat a reflection of it, but it's not necessarily the whole ordeal. This team is finally starting to not necessarily, well, let's say like wake people up, and also in the same breath keep them awake. Like, you can wake somebody up with your actions, but you can also very easily, deteriorate from that and put them back to sleep. And this team has not done that. They have awakened everyone, and it's been the same. Like, they just keep getting better and better every single game, every single day, and it's showing. And this team is finally starting to become like, I mean, I've always thought they were, but like to others around, like they're legit becoming a threat. Like, teams are finally starting to understand, like, you're not gonna just come up at USCB and get a win easily. Like, no, you gotta work for it. And the same thing when we go on the road. Like, a home team knows that when USC comes to town, it's gonna be trouble and it's gonna be a fight. Even if I'm at home and I got home court advantage and all of that, it's still gonna be a challenge. This was a really good game. You can argue that was probably the best that they've played this season. But with the humbleness that team possesses, they won't tell you that, That's just always in the mindset of, it was just a good win, but we can always do so much more. Like, we can always get so much better. And that's the kind of mindset you need to have if you're aspiring to be a championship team and program. I mean, they just got to keep growing. Like, it's really crazy to see like the turnover that they've had. Like, last year, this team was like the laughing stock of the Peach Belt, and now you're talking about a team who on Wednesday against Columbus State, like, could very well prove that in that very moment they are the best team in the Peach Belt. And I will admit it's going to be a challenge because Columbus State is a legit program. Like, as me being a student, like, there's some level of bias there, but Columbus State, I'll be honest, because I've seen every single game that either team has played, men's or women's, since I've got here. And as far as the girls are concerned, Columbus State was the only team that I thought was like legit. Like, I'm really watching them like, wow, they're tough. Now, granted, that's not really the whole truth, because I feel like, obviously with me watching the trajectory of sports my entire life, no matter what level it has been, high school, college, or the pros, when you play a conference opponent in the regular season, it is completely different as opposed to when you play them in the postseason, in the playoffs. And so there are a lot of teams, that I think can come in and, well, that's just sports anyway. You come in on the right day, you just on that day, then you got it. But I think a lot of teams can do that in this Peach Belt conference, and so we just can't get complacent. Like we gotta be able to take that regular season success and just build on it, and kind of let it segue into the postseason, and build up a bit as well, and just realize that the job ain't done yet. Like I remember talking uh, to point guard Tanaya Bowman last night, and she was, well, to kind of speed things up a little bit. They beat uh, Middle Georgia last night, but that's not what we're talking about. And so she was just telling us that game, or that win more specifically, solidified them a spot in the Peach Belt Conference tournament. And I'm looking at her, and it's like, of course she was happy, but I could tell, like, she wasn't gonna backflip over it. Like, and I remember telling her, I was like, hey, like, she knew. I had to say much. I was like, we ain't done. This is far from done. Like, it's great. I firmly believe that. I think the biggest thing for them is trying to make sure, for one, I think it's one thing for us to just get that top 4 seed, because the way that the Peach Belt tournament works, for those who don't know, the top 7 teams out of the conference qualify. The top 4 seeds get a first round playoff game, and it just goes from there. And so I think we will for sure get that top 4 seed. But I really want that number 1, because obviously if we get that number 1 seed, then the tournament basically has to run through our home court. And I've said on here multiple times that, I believe that we have the best home court advantage and the best crowd and the best home atmosphere, not just in the Peach Belt, but like one of the best in the country. And I just know it's going to be so hard for teams to come in there and win, especially during playoff time. Like the crowds that we have now, during the regular season, and especially in conference games, like, and it's not far off if it's a non-conference game, because the real USCB fan support, like, they are legit. It doesn't matter to them who's on the schedule. If they can make it, they'll make it. And so I just know it's gonna be a lot to endure if we are able to let the Peach Belt Conference tournament run through us. And I know that's a big goal for them. But this team is just it's still incomplete. They're not a complete team yet. They still have a lot of minor things, that they got to clean up. I mean, I look at the team, and it's nothing that I don't think I have any genuine concern, like big concern in any particular area. But I mean, there's always room for improvement. Like, that team, it's kind of unique to see teams that are like built out of a spread, instead of like you got one guy who you expect to drop 30 a night and the rest of the guys fall in line. Like, that team just does not have that. Anybody on that specific team can come in on any day and be the hot hand, whether it's Lydia, whether it's Tanaya, whether it's Maddie, whether it's Sammy, whether it's Z. It's just Janaya. I mean, it's just so many players on that team that can be the hot hand any day. And the thing about them is they've matured so much. Like, even the freshmen that we have don't really carry themselves as freshmen, whether that be on the floor or off the floor. And so that is big, because maturity and seniority is a huge factor, especially in college athletics. I learned that the hard way. Growing up being a Duke fan, I'm like, as a kid, I don't understand it yet. So I'm like, growing up, I'm like, oh, dude, we're bringing in all these top recruits, 5-star recruits every year. We can't win. until I realized it was a pattern. Every year, that team that kept winning the national championship was composed of their best players being juniors and seniors, and we have basically that this year. You got Tanaya, who's a junior, um, Lydia, who's a senior, Maddie, who's a junior. So I mean, like most of most of our key players are of seniority, and I think it's going to carry us a lot. And then they're not. Well, like I was saying, they're not selfish in the fact that like, oh, if I don't get mine, then I'm butthurt about it, or like no, like you get yours. Like you should see how that crowd or how they as a team erupt when somebody gets a big bucket or steal or just any huge play. Like the whole team is up on their feet, jumping in excitement and happy for the next person. And they also are very well prepared. Like I think they understand the whole thing about being ready when your name is called, and whoever steps in is ready to make an impact. And now that I'm at Georgia College, they actually put up a good fight, but I knew, and I had so much fun calling that game. It definitely was a mental shift for me, but I always have a great time calling a game. That's what I love to do. It's my passion. I get my all to it, and it's my life. But uh, they posed some problems. Like I did not expect them to really hang with us. Like I knew it was gonna be like. So this USCB team is very much a second half team. So like when I've gotten used to the point where it's like, and they're working on it. Like the girls, obviously um, I associate with just about half of them, and they tell me like we understand that the first half isn't really our strong suit, but we're working on it to try to be a hard nosed team all 4 quarters, and that's amazing because you're gonna have a better conditioned team who's ready to go 1,000% from tip off to double zeros, and we got to be able to sustain that and be able to compete with that as well. And this is a game where you're talking about a Georgia College team that comes in at 7-13 and then 3-9 in the Peach Belt Conference, and they didn't really play like it. They played. It was a 1 point game at halftime. And I remember saying on the broadcast during the game, I'm like, okay, here is the time where USCB can, kind of pull away. And they proceed to win by 9. Did they have won by more? Yes. And I think they knew that. Like it's very cliche to say, but it's almost like you can kind of feel when a very widely separated victory is on the verge of happening, and I felt like that was going to be one of those games. But just a great all around game. You're talking about Tanaya, who would have been the player I would have interviewed. I'm working on it. I said the last half of this series was going to be where those would come in most likely. So It's not like I'm not trying to do it. I'm just trying to figure out how to navigate it the right way because that is something that I've never done before. So it's coming. It's coming though. I'm working on it. But yeah, you talk about Tanaya, who had 18 points on 70% shooting. Oh my God, T. 70% shooting and 4 or 5 from the free throw line. Also to add 5 rebounds. 5 rebounds, 2 assists. And you got our senior captain, Lydia Gattosi, with 15, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists, and a block, and 2 steals. Just an all around great game for Lyd. But senior captain, like, she's supposed to be the one that, even if it's not by example. She's got to be able to give us a spark in some regard, and she's, you know, I think she honestly might be one of the best, if not the best, two-way player in the conference. Like, she will give you 20 and stop your best player on the opposite team from getting their 20, and so that's just what makes her special. And then you got Janiah Hayward, who gets 12, a block, 2 steals, an assist, and 4 rebounds on about 50% shooting. And then you got Sammy, who had 7, 12 from Z. Man, Z's been balling. It's watching Z grow her freshman year this season has been such a joy, man. And I was telling my friend the other day, I'm like, man, I'm so glad we got her for 3 more years, because by the time that she becomes a senior, I mean, I'll be gone because I graduate next year, but I'll be back for sure to see how great Z has become. And she doesn't play like a freshman. Like, she goes in there aggressive and eager, and you just can't even tell she's a freshman because she gets after it. But yeah, another win by committee kind of game. And with this, like I said, with this team, that's kind of what it's going to have to be the entire way. I think we can. Now that I'm thinking about it, like free throw shooting, because if I'm looking at this game right here, we shot 22 free throws as a team, made 15, which is 68%. Free throws are huge. The one thing about free throws is whether you shoot them at the start of the game or towards the end, they're just as important no matter when you shoot them. And we got to brush up on that. And I think also our perimeter shooting, we got to brush up on, because in today's game, it is extremely hard to win games if you cannot hit shots from the perimeter. And we have capable shooters. We have a plethora of capable three-point shooters. It's just about, shooters shooting and shooters making shots. Like in this game alone, we shot 8 threes, made 1, which is, say, 13%. But nonetheless, we won the game and finished with a 52% field goal percentage. So I'm not really worried about us finishing. I think we are a very good team as far as finishing at the rim, but it's like there are 1,000 facets to basketball, and especially if the whistle is not on our side that game, it's gonna be basically non-existent for all the slashing. Because like if you miss, then you're just constantly waiting for a call that probably just will not happen. And I mean, defense is getting better. Defense is looking really, really sharp. I mean, they held GCSU to 38% shooting percentage while converting 50% of its own attempts in the first half. And so that's the thing with basketball. Like, you can score all you want, but you gotta stop somebody as well. I can end the game with 2 points as long as you just got 0 or 1. I win. And that's the thing we gotta just keep in mind. Like, yeah, we can, in terms of us scoring the ball, I'm not worried, but we gotta get stops. We gotta stop people, and they understand how important that is. But yeah, Super Bowl Sunday, my Seahawks just won a Super Bowl. It feels great. So I'm gonna go kind of unwind and try my best to get this out within the next 10 minutes. And yeah, I appreciate y'all watching. I was so close to like holding off on this and just double uploading next Sunday with this and the next one, which I believe is going to be recapping the boys game against Middle Georgia, but I realized if I were to do that, then I would be even more behind because we have a game Wednesday, like Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, maybe something like that. So like that would be 3 episodes that I would have to do. Like it would be too much. But appreciate y'all watching. Always remember, don't underestimate, appreciate. Go.